A long time ago, in a small quiet village, there lived a young girl named Chica. Chica was known throughout the village for her kindness and beauty, and everyone who knew her adored her. People often saw her helping her parents at home or greeting everyone with a bright smile as she walked along the village paths. Chica's family wasn't wealthy, but they were close and happy, and for them, that was enough. The villagers were simple people who worked hard every day. They grew their own food, cared for their animals, and treated one another like family. They also followed old traditions that had been passed down through many generations. One of the most beloved traditions was an annual festival held to honor the spirits of the land. Everyone looked forward to it, as it was a time of music, dancing, and shared meals. Among the villagers, Chica's warm personality and gentle heart made her stand out. She had a special way of making people feel comfortable, and many of the village children admired her deeply. The elders often praised her for being so respectful and well-behaved, but while most people admired Chica, not everyone was happy for her. There were 3 girls in the village, Ada, Bisi, and F, who felt quite differently. Often seen whispering and laughing among themselves, they secretly envied Chica's popularity and the attention she received. In their hearts, a quiet jealousy slowly turned into bitterness. Though Chica was always friendly and tried to include them, they only pretended to be her friends. Deep down, they disliked her. Over time, these feelings of envy hardened into a plan. They wanted to get rid of Chica and take her place in the hearts of the villagers. To everyone else, they still looked like kind, cheerful girls. But hidden in their hearts was a dark secret, and Chica had no idea about the danger that awaited her. As the festival drew nearer, Ada, Bisi, and F began to act on their plan. They knew that Chica's kindness was also her weakness, and they would use it to make her trust them even more. One bright afternoon, the 3 girls found Chica gathering firewood near her home. With big smiles, they greeted her as though they were her dearest friends. "Chica," Ada exclaimed excitedly, "have you heard about the big festival coming up?" Chica smiled, nodding. "Yes, I love the festival. But my parents think it's best if I stay home this year." "Oh, that's so sad," Bisi said, pouting. "We were really hoping you'd come with us," F nodded in agreement. "It won't be the same without you, Chica. You should come. We'll all be together. It will be so much fun." Chica hesitated, looking down at the bundle of firewood in her arms. She had always dreamed of going to the festival with friends, but she didn't want to disobey her parents. A few days before the festival, Chica's parents were preparing to visit a relative in a neighboring village. As they packed, Chica's mother noticed that her daughter had been spending more time with Ada, Bisi, and F, the very girls who had only recently started acting friendly toward her. Chica's mother felt uneasy about their sudden interest in her daughter. She had seen them whispering and exchanging glances at Chica from afar in the past. Before leaving, her mother gently took her aside. "Chica, my dear," she said softly, "I want you to be careful. Not everyone who smiles at you is truly your friend. I know these girls have been, but something about it feels strange, my child." Her mother finished gently. Chica smiled, brushing off her mother's worry. "Mama, they're just being kind. They mean no harm. Besides, everyone in the village is like family, right?" Her mother sighed, concern still clouding her eyes. "You always see the best in people, Chica, but remember, stay careful. And please don't go to the festival. It's being held in the next village, and it isn't safe to travel alone." Chica's father, standing nearby, nodded in agreement. "Listen to your mother, Chica. We're leaving you with some chores to keep you busy while we're away. That way, you'll have something to do, and you won't be tempted to wander off." Chica promised she would stay home. Her parents hugged her tightly before setting off, leaving her alone with a list of chores and her mother's warning lingering in her heart. She truly planned to follow their wishes, even though part of her longed to see the festival's music, dancing, and excitement. The very next morning, as Chica swept the front yard, Ada, Bisi, and F appeared. Their faces were bright with smiles, as though nothing in the world could go wrong. "Chica!" Ada announced, her voice full of excitement. "We've come to take you to the festival." Chica quickly shook her head. "I can't go," she said softly. My parents asked me to stay home. They even gave me chores to keep me busy. Oh, don't worry about that, BC replied, waving her hand dismissively. We'll help you finish the chores. Then you'll be free and your parents will never even know. Chica hesitated, tightening her grip on the broom. I don't know. They said it wasn't safe to travel alone. F stepped closer, her smile warm and reassuring. But you won't be alone, Chica. We'll be with you the whole time. It's not that far, it's just in the neighboring village. Nothing bad will happen, trust us. Their words eased Chica's doubts. She had always dreamed of going to the festival with friends, and the thought of music, dancing, and laughter was hard to resist. She looked at the three girls who stood there looking so eager and sincere. At last, Chica smiled. All right, she said softly. I'll come with you, but we have to finish all my chores first. The girls eagerly agreed. They're hidden. Envy buried beneath friendly laughter. Together they swept the yard, fetched water, and finished every task on Chica's list. They laughed and chatted as they worked, making it seem as though they truly cared for her. By the time the chores were done, Chica felt a warm sense of friendship. For the first time, she truly believed these girls wanted to spend time with her, not out of pity, but because they enjoyed her company. As set off toward the neighboring village, Chica thought once more about her mother's warning, but she quickly pushed it aside. They're my friends, she reminded herself. They helped me so much today. What could possibly go wrong? Convinced there was nothing to worry about, Chica set off toward the festival with Ada, BC, and F. Excitement shimmered in the air as they laughed and chatted along the winding path. For Chica, this was a brand new adventure. She had never left her own village before. Her parents had always kept her close to home. But now, with her friends beside her, she felt brave and free. The sun shone brightly overhead as they walked through open fields, past clusters of tall trees, and down quiet paths. Chica's heart beat faster with every step, thrilled at the thought of seeing new places and meeting new people. Ada, BC, and F walked a little ahead, glancing back now and then with warm smiles, as though they were leading Chica on a grand journey. After some time, they reached a wide, dark river that cut across their path. The water was calm, almost unnaturally so, and a strange, heavy silence hung in the air. Chica paused, staring curiously at the still surface, sensing something mysterious about this place. Without saying a word, Ada, BC, and F stepped carefully onto the stones that formed a crossing. They didn't warn Chica about the river's hidden danger, nor did they tell her of an ancient rule that every villager knew. Anyone who crossed this river was expected to make an offering of food to the river's guardian spirit, a mermaid, when they returned. This token of respect was said to protect travelers and ensure they could cross back safely. Those who failed to bring an offering risked being dragged into the depths by the mermaid, never to return. The three girls who had crossed this river many times before kept silent about this rule. Deep inside, they planned to use Chica's ignorance against her. Unaware, Chica carefully balanced on the rocks, following the others across. She marveled at the strange beauty of the water and the hush that seemed to wrap around them. When she reached the other side, she let out a soft sigh of relief, excited to be even closer to the festival. When they finally arrived in the neighboring village, Chica's eyes widened in pure wonder. The festival was more vibrant and lively than anything she had ever seen. Colorful stalls lined the pathways, overflowing with foods, sweets, and handmade crafts. Musicians played cheerful tunes and people danced under the open sky, their laughter filling the air. The mouth-watering scent of roasted food and sweet fruits drifted all around. Chica's heart swelled with happiness and gratitude toward her friends for bringing her here. For the first time in her life, she felt completely free. Her eyes sparkled as she took in every sight, every sound, every smell. As the four girls wandered through the festival, something unexpected happened, something even Ada, BC, and F had not foreseen. Many young men from the neighboring village couldn't keep their eyes off Chica. Her gentle smile, graceful presence, and natural beauty drew their attention immediately. Some admired her simple dress and the kindness in her eyes, qualities that made her shine even brighter among the colorful crowd. Among those who noticed her was a particularly handsome boy named Chiji. With warm eyes and an easy smile, he stepped forward, gently extending his hand. "Hello," he said softly. "My name is Chiji. I haven't seen you around here before. Are you new to the festival?" Chica's cheeks turned a soft pink as she shyly shook his hand. "Yes, I am," she replied. "My friends brought me here for the first time today." Chiji's smile widened, kindness shining in his eyes. "Well, welcome. I'm glad you came." "You're here," Chiji said warmly, his eyes lighting up. "Would you like to walk around with me? I can show you some of the best parts of the festival." Chica glanced over at her friends, who were watching her with tense, forced smiles. Then she turned back to Chiji, her heart beating quickly with nervous excitement. "That would be nice," she replied softly. "Thank you." The two of them wandered through the festival together, exploring colorful stalls and lively attractions. They talked and laughed as though they had known each other for years. Chiji was kind and quick-witted, making Chica feel at ease.
They
shared stories from their villages, teased each other playfully, and discovered small things they had in common. By evening, Chica felt she had made a true friend, maybe even something more. Her smile was brighter than ever, and her heart felt light. But nearby, Ada, BC, and F watched with growing bitterness. They had expected Chica to be grateful for being brought along to remain quietly beside them. Instead, she had become the center of attention. The young men who once admired them now barely spared them a glance, their eyes drawn to Chica's gentle smile and graceful presence. Ada's face tightened. BC crossed her arms with a scowl, and F clenched her fists at her sides. The three of them huddled together, eyes fixed on Chica and Chiji as they laughed among the festival crowds. "Look at her," Ada whispered, her voice heavy with resentment. "She acts like she's better than us." "Everyone loves her," BC muttered, bitterness sharpening her words. "It's as if we don't even exist." F's gaze darkened. "Maybe it's time we remind her that she's not so special after all." They exchanged knowing, angry looks. They all remembered the ancient rule Chica didn't know, that anyone crossing back over the river must offer food to the river's guardian mermaid or risk being pulled into the depths. In their hearts, they saw this as their chance to finally rid themselves of her once and for all. Meanwhile, Chica remained blissfully unaware of the jealousy festering beside her. She danced, laughed, and celebrated with Chiji and the other villagers, feeling a freedom she had never known. For the first time, she felt surrounded by friends who cared for her, never suspecting that some harbored dark intentions. As the sun sank lower, Ada, BC, and F silently prepared themselves for what would come next. While Chica's heart overflowed with joy and trust, danger waited quietly on the path ahead. Chica, still caught up in the festival's magic, moved from stall to stall with wide-eyed wonder. Music and laughter swirled around her. Colorful fabrics fluttered in the breeze. For a moment, she completely forgot her parents' warning to stay home, but suddenly, as she turned to watch a circle of dancers, her heart froze. Standing at the edge of the crowd were her parents. Their faces were stern and deeply disappointed. Before Chica could slip away, her father spotted her. His eyes locked on hers, and he began striding toward her with measured, serious steps. "Chica!" Her mother's voice cut through the noise of the festival, sharp and clear. "What are you doing here?" Chica's heart dropped into her stomach. She knew immediately she was in trouble. A cold shiver ran down Chica's spine as she stared in horror at the shifting water. The calm surface of the river broke, revealing the outline of a mermaid rising slowly from the depths. Her long hair floated around her, and her eyes glowed with cold fury. "You dare to cross my waters without an offering?" The mermaid hissed, her voice echoing eerily across the river. Chica tried to step back, but her feet felt as heavy as stone, rooted to the ground by fear. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. All she could do was stare, her heart pounding wildly in her chest. The mermaid's gaze darkened. "Those who do not respect the rule must face the punishment," she declared, her expression hard and unforgiving. Before Chica could react, the mermaid's pale, powerful hand shot out of the water, gripping Chica's wrist with icy strength. Chica gasped, desperately trying to pull away. But the mermaid's hold was unbreakable, and the cold water began swirling around Chica's legs, dragging her toward the depths. "No! Please!" Chica cried out, her voice shaking with terror. "I didn't know. I'm sorry." "Please," but the mermaid's face remained cold, unmoved by Chica's pleas. With a single, swift motion, she pulled Chica into the dark water. The last thing Chica saw was the river's surface closing above her head, her frightened reflection swallowed by swirling darkness. Her cry faded into silence, lost beneath the cold, endless depths. On the opposite bank, Ada, BC, and F watched silently. Their eyes followed Chica until the ripples calmed and she was gone. For a brief, twisted moment, they felt triumph. Their jealousy was satisfied at last. Without a word, they turned and hurried back toward the village, eager to enjoy their victory, never suspecting that what they had done would not remain hidden forever. They returned to the village wearing small, smug smiles. With Chica gone, they imagined that the young men would finally turn their eyes to them, and that they would claim the admiration and attention they had always wanted. The next morning, however, troubling news spread through the village. Chica's parents had come home, and Chica was missing. Chica's mother, pale with worry, went from house to house, her voice shaking as she asked if anyone had seen her daughter. But no one had seen Chica since the festival. Word of her disappearance spread quickly. Villagers gathered in small groups, their faces clouded with worry. Whispers filled the air, each story darker than the last. At last, Chica's mother found Ada, BC, and F standing together in the village square, speaking quietly among themselves. "Girls!" Chica's mother called out, desperation breaking in her voice. "You were with Chica at the festival, weren't you? Where is she? Why hasn't she come home?" The three girls exchanged quick glances before putting on masks of worry. Ada stepped forward, choosing her words carefully. "Yes, Mama. We were with her, but after a while she wandered off. We thought she was right behind us." BC nodded, her expression serious. "We figured she stayed behind to enjoy the festival a little longer. She seemed to be having a good time." "We didn't think anything of it," F added, her voice calm. "We thought she'd come home on her own." Chica's mother's shoulders slumped, her eyes filled with tears. "But Chica isn't like that," she whispered. "She wouldn't wander off without telling us." Around them, villagers murmured among themselves, concern and sorrow deepening on every face. Chica had been loved by everyone. The thought of her lost or worse cast a shadow over the entire village. One of the older women in the crowd spoke, her voice troubled. "Perhaps something happened to her by the river. Strange stories have always surrounded that place." Another villager nodded, his gaze grim. "There are forces in this world we can't explain. It's possible something mystical took her." As the whispers spread, Chica's father wrapped his arm around his grieving wife, trying to hold himself together. "She come back," he said softly, though his own voice shook. "She's a smart girl. She find her way home." But days turned to nights, and still there was no sign of Chica. Her mother's face grew pale and tired, eyes hollow from sleepless nights spent searching and waiting. Every evening she would sit outside their home, staring down the path, hoping to see her daughter return with that familiar, bright smile. Each night ended in sorrow. The entire village mourned Chica's absence. Some lit small candles outside their homes and whispered prayers for her safe return. Some believed she had met with an accident. Others whispered of ancient spirits and river curses. Meanwhile, Ada, BC, and F continued to live as if nothing had happened. They pretended to share in the village's grief, offering comforting words, hiding the guilt and darkness buried deep in their hearts. In the days that followed, Ada, BC, and F played the part of grieving friends. They spoke kind words about Chica to her parents, helped search along the village paths, and nodded solemnly when asked about her. But deep inside they felt pleased. With Chica gone, the young men of the village finally began to notice them, offering smiles and attention they had long envied. Yet as rumors swirled and whispers spread, a faint unease began to grow in the girls' hearts. One day, unable to bear the fear that their secret might be discovered, they returned to the riverbank hoping to see nothing remain to betray them. They scanned the still, dark water, reassuring themselves that all evidence was hidden, but then a soft sound broke the silence. Perched high on a tree branch above the river was a small parrot, its feathers ruffled and eyes sharp. It sang a low, mournful melody that seemed to echo through the air, each note dripping with sorrow. The girls listened, their blood running cold, as they realized what the song revealed. The parrot's song was telling the truth, how they had led Chica across the river, hidden the rule of the offering, and abandoned her to the mermaid's wrath. Horror twisted their faces. If anyone heard the parrot's song, their dark secret would be exposed. Without speaking, Ada, BC, and F bent down, grabbing stones from the riverbank. They hurled them at the bird, desperation burning in every throw. The parrot fluttered, trying to dodge the rain of stones. But at last one struck true. The song stopped abruptly. The small creature fell silent. Disappearing into the shadows of the trees, the girls exhaled in relief. Convinced they had erased the last trace of what they had done, days passed. Chica's parents searched the paths tirelessly, their hope fading. But their love unbroken every morning and evening. They called her name through the fields and along the riverbank, asking every villager if they had seen even a trace. They were met only with pitying looks and sad shakes of the head. Still, they refused to give up. One evening, as they returned home under a darkening sky, a faint sound caught their attention, a broken, sorrowful chirping from the roadside bush. They stopped. Hidden among the leaves was a small parrot. Its feathers were dirty and ruffled, and it seemed weak and battered. They knelt beside it, and to their amazement, the parrot began to sing. Its trembling voice wove a sad, haunting melody, and slowly its words became clear through the broken song. The truth spilled out. It sang of how Ada, BC, and F had led Chica across the river, hiding the rule of the offering. It told how, on their return, the girls had offered food to save themselves, but had refused to share with Chica. Even as she begged and pleaded in fear, the parrot's song painted a cruel picture. Chica, desperate and terrified. The girls turning away, and the mermaid dragging Chica into the depths. Chica's mother gasped, tears spilling down her face as she pictured her daughter's terror. Chica's father clenched his fists, his grief burning into anger. "We trusted them," he whispered hoarsely. "They were supposed to be her friends." The parrot, its voice fading, spoke one last time. "I saw it all. Chica was taken by the mermaid because of their betrayal. But there may still be a way. Follow me to the river. If you have the courage, there may be a chance to save her." Chica's parents exchanged a determined look. Their grief hardened into resolve. They would not abandon their daughter, no matter the cost. Chica's mother wiped her tears. Her father placed a firm, comforting hand on her shoulder. They nodded. "Lead us," Chica's father whispered, guided by the injured parrot. They made their way back down the dark path toward the river. The journey felt endless, the silence between them heavy with fear and hope. Finally, they stood again at the water's edge. The river lay calm and dark under the evening sky, the same river that had stolen their child. Yet their love for Chica burned brighter than their fear. Together, they raised their voices, calling out across the water, "Oh great mermaid of the river, we beg you, return our daughter to us. She is our only child, our light and our joy. We cannot live without her." For a long moment, the river remained silent. Then ripples began to spread, and from the depths, the mermaid emerged. Her hair flowed like dark currents, and her eyes shone coldly in the moonlight. Beside her, standing quietly, was Chica. She looked pale and tired, her eyes hollow, her spirit dimmed by servitude under the river. "Your daughter is mine now," the mermaid said, her voice as calm and cruel as the water itself. She crossed my waters without an offering. Such is the law of the river. Chica's parents fell to their knees, tears streaming down their faces. "Please," her mother pleaded. "She is our only child. We cannot bear this loss. Have mercy." The mermaid tilted her head, considering. A faint, almost mocking smile touched her lips. "If you truly wish to save her, then prove the depth of your love," she declared. "Cross this river yourselves, without help, without bridge or boat. If you succeed, I will set her free. But if you fail, you will join her here, bound." to me as my servants. Chica's parents looked at each other, fear and love warring in their hearts. The river was deep, its currents deadly. The challenge seemed impossible. Yet without hesitation they clasped hands and bowed their heads, whispering a prayer to the gods. They were ready to risk everything to save their daughter. For guidance and strength, Chica's parents whispered their prayers as they stepped toward the river. A murmur spread among the villagers gathered nearby. Word of the parents' ordeal had spread quickly, drawing many to the riverbank. Their hearts were filled with sympathy and silent hope. Some called out words of encouragement that floated over the water. "Stay strong. Your love will guide you." Meanwhile, news of what had happened reached Ada, BC, and F. Realizing that their cruel betrayal had been exposed, panic gripped them. Terrified of the villagers' judgment and punishment, they fled into the forest, hoping to escape the truth they could no longer deny. But as they ran deeper among the ancient trees, the forest seemed to turn against them. Shadows thickened, paths twisted, and every direction looked the same. Fear wrapped around their hearts like a cold vine. In their panic, bitterness boiled to the surface. "If it weren't for her," Ada hissed, voice shaking, "we wouldn't be in this mess. Why couldn't she just stay away?" BC muttered bitterly. "She ruined everything," F added, her words trembling between anger and dread. Back at the river, the villagers watched in breathless silence as Chica's parents stepped into the water. The river was cold and deep. Each step was a struggle as unseen currents tugged at them, trying to drag them under. But hand in hand, they pressed on, driven by a love that would not bend. Their prayers and the chants of the villagers grew louder, filling the air with hope. Just when it seemed the river would claim them, a gentle wind stirred, warm and steady, wrapping around them like an unseen embrace. It guided their footing, pushing them forward through the swirling water. Gasps rose among the villagers as they witnessed what felt like a miracle unfolding. Guided by that mysterious wind, Chica's parents finally reached the far bank. Soaked and trembling, they turned to face the mermaid. The mermaid, her dark hair drifting over the water, watched in silence. For a moment, her cold gaze softened as she took in the sight of the parents' unwavering devotion. "Your love has proven true," she said at last, her voice quiet yet clear. "I release your daughter." With a graceful wave of her hand, the spell broke. Tears filled Chica's eyes as her spirit returned, warmth flooding her face once more. She rushed into her parents' waiting arms, and together they held each other, tightly bound by love that had faced the river's wrath and survived. The villagers erupted in cheers, their voices echoing across the water and through the trees. Chica and her parents crossed back, supported by the grateful crowd, hearts brimming with relief and gratitude. The next day brought joy and sorrow. News of what Ada, BC, and F had done spread quickly. The villagers were stunned that jealousy had driven them to such betrayal. The matter reached the ears of the village king, a man known for fairness, but also for stern justice. He summoned the three girls to his court. They arrived with heads bowed, unable to meet the eyes of the villagers who once saw them as friends. The king's voice boomed through the hall. "You betrayed not only Chica, but the trust of this entire village. Your hearts were consumed by envy, and your cruelty brought grief and fear to us all. Such actions must be answered." The girls remained silent, pale and trembling, as the weight of their deeds settled on them. "For your betrayal," the king declared, "you will be publicly humiliated and then banished. Let this serve as a lesson to all who let envy poison the heart." Led through the village, the three girls walked in shame. Some villagers shook their heads in disappointment. Others turned away, hearts heavy with sorrow at what had become of them. At the edge of the village, Ada, BC, and F paused for one last look before they stepped beyond its borders, forever cut off from the only home they had known. As their shadows disappeared down the road, the village turned its eyes back to Chica, alive, forgiven and home. Friends and neighbors gathered to celebrate, filling her family's yard with laughter, songs, and gifts. Among them, Chica quietly felt a pull in her heart. Later that day, she returned to the river, holding a small offering of thanks. "Great mermaid of the river," she called softly, standing by the bank. I have come to thank you. The water rippled gently, and the mermaid rose once more. Her expression was calm, not cruel, and in her eyes shone something that might have been sadness or memory. What brings you here, child? The mermaid asked. Your mercy gave me back my family, Chica replied. I am forever grateful. The mermaid looked at her a long moment before she spoke, voice tinged with a sorrow that seemed older than the river itself. Once I too was a young maiden full of dreams. I loved a man from a faraway village, but his mother, who was a witch, cursed me to these waters, binding me forever. Over the years I watched families pass me by, my own chance at love stolen. My heart hardened, and I vowed to punish those who disrespected my realm. She paused, her gaze softening. But when I saw your parents' love for you, their willingness to risk everything, it stirred something in me that I thought had died. It reminded me that not all hearts are cruel. Some still hold kindness and sacrifice. A tear slipped down Chica's cheek. Thank you, she whispered, for sharing your story and for giving me a second chance. The mermaid nodded, a faint, wistful smile touching her lips. Go now, Chica, she said gently. Cherish your family, for love is more powerful than any curse. With those final words, she sank back into the water, the river calming once more. The celebration in the village lasted into the night. Songs and laughter filled the air, and people gathered around Chica, marveling at her courage and the miracle of her return. Among the crowd, a young man stepped forward. He was dressed in fine clothes that hinted at quiet nobility, yet his gaze was kind. It was the village prince, come to join the celebration after hearing the tale of Chica and the river. As he drew closer, his eyes widened with recognition, for he realized Chica was the same gentle girl whose kindness and smile had stayed with him since the day of the festival.